Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back dear learners to this course on architectural thesis. My name is Dr. Vishal Chettry and I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Architecture, Planning and Design at IIT Varanasi. In this lecture we will focus on the topic that is site planning and zoning. So these are the content that will be covered in the presentation. So we will start with the introduction to site planning. We will understand the principles of site planning, understand what site zoning is and the benefits from site zoning, criteria for zoning within the site, examples for site zoning, role of contours in planning, role of natural features in planning, relationships between site analysis and site planning, and then the examples for how we can move from analysis to the plan, and then the conclusion, that is overall key takeaways from this presentation. So to give you a recap of what was covered in the previous presentation, we tried to understand what a design concept is and how we can develop design concept for the various type of project that is selected for architectural thesis or even for the architectural design courses. So we understood that the design concept is that it is a very central idea that directs architectural development and the decision making process. The importance for design concept highlights the role in creating cohesive and meaningful architectural outcomes for the project. The types of design concept was also elaborated and discussed in detail. Translation of research, how it helps you develop the concept for the project was discussed, and then some strategies based on which you can support the creation of strong narratives that communicates design effectively with a very clarity and with a certain impact to the examiner or to the person who will look into your work at later stage. And also some case examples was illustrated for practical application of various design concepts in architectural thesis. So with that understanding, now let us focus on the site planning stage, because once you develop the concept for your project, you will be preparing the site plan, that is how you will place your different blocks, or you will arrange your a dedicated space within the entire site where a type of building will be developed. This is always this is essential in case of project which includes scattered planning, which doesn't have much of compact planning provision. So in such kind of spaces where it is a scattered planning, and you have to understand the placement, or that you have to figure out the tentative areas within the site where particular blocks are going to come up. So this is why understanding site planning becomes essential in this case. So as defined by Kevin Lynch, site planning is the art of arranging structures on the land and shaping the spaces between these spaces. It is also an art linked to architecture, engineering, landscape architecture and the city planning as a whole. So site planning is the organization of external physical environment to accommodate the human behavior of the people. It involves the organization of land use, zoning, access, circulation, privacy, security, shelter, land drainage, that is the drainage pattern within the site, and some other factors. So these are different components that has to be incorporated or considered in detail when you move in the towards the site planning stage. Then now let us look into introduction to the site planning. So site planning is an art and science of arranging land uses on a site. Why is it called both an art and science? Is because science, as you know, that the placement of a particular block or the way we orient the building or align the building in a particular site is actually dependent on various factors that was just mentioned in the previous slide. So these are all scientific bases based on which the decision is taken that in which direction we have to, the elevation in all the direction depends on the site analysis that we do. Likewise, why is it called an art? Is because it has to also merge with the existing site features. So what type of materials is used or how we make our form such that it integrates or it becomes a coherent idea for the project. So that is what makes site planning exercise it as an art as well as a science behind the this particular step. So it considers functional needs, environmental concerns and the aesthetic value. So it aims to balance the built and the unbuilt spaces within the site. So the steps in the site planning design includes site inventory, that you will gather all the relevant data that is required, you perform site analysis, then you develop the concept, thereafter you proceed with the circulation planning, then the spatial organization, thereafter how you integrate the unbuilt spaces, how your built-in unbuilt spaces complement with each other through the landscape integration in the project. So that is done, and then a detailed planning of the structure is attempted. So there are different tools and techniques that are used for site planning. It includes surveying instrument, GIS, CAD and BIM software, model making exercises and environmental simulation tool to understand the environmental factors such as sun path, wind flow and the shadow pattern that is observed in the site. So these are different tools and techniques that are used for site planning exercise. Then some common mistakes that is generally observed in site planning exercises is that many times students or any person who attempts the design process ignores the topography of the site. So that should not be done. Lack of drainage planning, if you do that, then in monsoon season or when there is a extreme rainfall, so there may be if you don't understand the topography and there is no drainage planning, so there will be some areas within the site where the water will be accumulated and you would not want that to happen in case of your project. So that should be taken care. Overlooking the pedestrian movement, that is the movement within the site has to be considered. Neglecting the cultural context, that also should be avoided, and the inadequate tree protection, that is removing natural or the mature trees in the site can increase environmental impact and reduce the site appeal. So these things has to be considered very important and are very important in case of site planning. So now let us look into the principles of site planning in architectural design. So how it is done is through the strategic arrangement, that is optimizing function and aesthetics through the careful placement of landscape elements and the structure. So the built-in unbuilt spaces, what is the composition, how much percentage is unbuilt spaces occupying within the site, how much is the built space occupying within the site. So all this strategic arrangement has to be focused very clear, very in detail. The next is holistic balance, that is achieving equilibrium between environmental, legal and social considerations for truly sustainable development is required. And then the integrated process, that is encompassing a comprehensive site analysis, precise zoning, efficient circulation design and robust infrastructure planning is required in case of, this is mostly applicable in case of large scale projects. So these are some principles that are listed and has to be considered for site planning. So the priority should be given to the preservation of existing natural features, like if there is a water body or if there are vegetation within the site. So how should your site planning be done such that these features can be retained in the site. So detailed analysis of the site's climate, solar orientation, wind pattern and soil conditions should be done, so that the design that you develop is an informed design process. Arranging building and spaces to facilitate efficient movement, access and circulation for vehicles and pedestrians is essential, because within a site it is not just building that has to be planned, there are other features that complement the building that you design. So that is why these features are very essential in case of site planning. Then the other factors that has to be focused is the aesthetics, because that is what makes your design very aesthetically appealing. And then the sustainability, that is minimizing environmental impact through strategies like water conservation, stormwater management and energy efficient design enhances the sustainability of your project. Safety and security, designing of safety and security through appropriate lighting, visibility and layout of the block is essential. Then the accessibility, that is ensuring that the site and buildings are accessible to all the different types of user groups, including those with the disabilities. So these things has to be dealt in detail in case of site planning. Then let us now look into the factors that affects the site planning. The first is on-site consideration. The on-site considerations include orientation, size, contours, trees, existing features or existing structures, on-site drainage and soil typology that is there on the site. So these features has to be understood, and these will guide you towards design development. Off-site considerations include use of surrounding buildings, vegetation, if there is any drainage that is there on the existing site, that has to be properly mapped, road connectivity to the site, service layout around the site and other details. So these are all off-site considerations that has to be mapped and listed in detail. Then the climatic data, so like sun path, temperature, prevailing wind direction, the amount of rainfall that site experiences, humidity, local factors affecting the microclimate of the site, all these informations are necessary, and this will guide you towards the orientation or the placement of different blocks in your site. Zonal building bylaws, these will help you in computing the permissible built up within the site and the minimum setbacks and the permissible area within which you can build the you can start the building or you can start the placement of the building within the site. These informations are necessary in that case. Then now let us look into site zoning, the definition and its benefit. So zoning is actually a process by which we subdivide a land into different zones for specific purposes like residential, commercial, recreational, and these are very true in sense of a large city scale project. But when it comes to architectural project, that too at an undergrad level, so here you can interpret this in a way that when you start site planning within the site, if it is a scattered planning, like if you are designing a university or a hospital within a site, so then there will be few different blocks like emergency, OPD, IPD department and the accommodation for the staffs and even the other ancillary facilities like pharmacy or the specific residential blocks for the patients and the relatives or even for the staffs and nurses. So for these are the different blocks or activities for which you may require some scattered planning approach. So that may not be possible, the planning of these spaces may not be possible through compact planning approach. So in that case probably you have to scatter the uses of this building and accordingly identify best area within the site where you can design these buildings. So this is how site zoning becomes essential, and then also it promotes safety, that is you prepare a dedicated route by which there is a movement of vehicle, there is a dedicated route for the movement of pedestrians. So these you enhance the safety within the site by doing site zoning or the site planning. It ensures the privacy, it increases the functional efficiency, helps in traffic management, separates incompatible land uses, ensures orderly community development, and there are other benefits that we get through site zoning. So the criteria for zoning includes land capability, that is assessment of soil composition, slope gradient and environmental sensitivity to determine suitable land uses. So the use compatibility is also a criteria ensuring that the adjacent use of a particular building doesn't disturb the use within the specific building. So that has to be understood, how and what different blocks can be kept near to each other. That is understood by zoning that you do in your site planning. Then accessibility and circulation, designing efficient pathways and access points for smooth movement of people and vehicle become essential. Infrastructure support, that is evaluating the availability and capacity of essential utilities and infrastructure to support proposed design development is essential in that case. Then the example of site zoning includes the preparation of bubble diagram, the placement of different blocks through bubble diagram. This is how you can proceed in the site zoning, and then spatial diagrams which illustrates the circulation path, zoning for landscape features or the integration of built-in open spaces in the urban setting. So these are few examples by which you can start the site zoning process. Also building code zoning diagrams which illustrates the permissible building height that can be built within a space, floor area ratio, setbacks from property lines and other regulations. So these guide you towards the legalities of that site, and the building that you design is complies to the legal framework that is there in the particular city. Then the other factors that is included or that helps you in site zoning is the environmental aspect. So it includes the understanding of sun path, wind pattern, from where do you get the cool air during summers, or from which direction do you get very harsh cool breezes during winter season. So you have to design your you have to do your site planning in such a way that you can block winds during winter to enter the building, or if there is hot air or loo that enters the building, so how can that be blocked during summer season, and only you allow cool air to pass through the building. So that sort of strategies and design interventions are possible through proper site planning exercises. Then there are other examples of site planning which includes like when you start the university campus design. So in that you know that there are certain different land use zones that are there or within the university. For example, accommodation for teachers, accommodation for staff, accommodation for students. Likewise, there will be a dedicated silent zone, that is academic zone, sports and recreation zone, that will be full of noisy activities, and then the service zone, that is the circulation movement within the site. So all these are different zones or different activities that will happen in the site, and how do you plan these activities? So these cannot be planned in one building together. So you need to go for scattered planning so that there is minimal disturbances from one activity to the other activity. So that is why site zoning is very important in such cases. Then let us now look into the role of contours in planning, because this is very essential in case of your site is located in hilly terrain. So the topographical insights like contour lines serve as invaluable indicators of site's topography, revealing the critical information about slope, elevation and the natural drainage pattern that is there in the site. So it guides the optimal placement of buildings, it influences the natural flow of surface water, and it helps to integrate structures harmoniously with the existing landscape. So these are benefits when you integrate contours in your design. And also you have to think that the contours are the lines that represents the elevations level. So these are hypothetical line that we draw for ourselves, for our understanding about the height differences that is there in the site, helps in understanding site slope and terrain, guides drainage planning to avoid waterlogging within the site. Building placement follows natural slope, that is, it reduces the earthwork and excavation, determines cut and fill quantities in certain locations, aids in designing roads, retaining walls and landscaping within the site. So that is essential. So there are few examples of how you can do cut and fill within this site. So this is the optimum cut and fill as shown here in this case is not good, because you are cutting a lot portion within your site and using very small amount of that soil that is cut from the site and using it for the placement of the block. So the other approaches that are shown here are the correct way by which you can initiate the design process. So the role of natural features in planning, as already mentioned, so the natural features commonly observed within the site are either trees, natural bodies or water bodies, or rocks or hills that are there in and around the site. So these features influences the microclimate and provides the aesthetics to the site. So there has to be minimal disturbance to these natural features. So if there are existing trees, that provides shades and minimizes heat gain within the site. So you should try to retain the existing trees. Preserving biodiversity adds ecological value to your site planning exercises. Water bodies enhances cooling and drainage in your site. Features like slopes or rock formations add identity to the design. So these can be very well integrated into the design process. So let us now look into the relationship between the site analysis and site planning. So site analysis is the foundational phase involving the comprehensive gathering of data on climate patterns, geographical characteristics, legal constraints and the existing infrastructure. So site analysis is a process by which we understand the natural and man-made conditions, like we study the climate, soil, excess, vegetation, topography, and we analyze the implication of these features into the design. While in site planning, we use the implication or the data that we generate from site analysis for informed decision making process. So the analysis helps you in the preparation of research stage, where you do data collection and do the survey of the site, and then you analyze those data that you have collected. You identify the opportunities, you identify the constraints, you develop the program for the project, and then you synthesize these informations to start the site planning exercises. So to wrap up what we have learnt in this presentation, site planning is a foundation of architecture. It integrates environmental, functional and social factors we achieve harmony through balanced approach between man-made and natural features within the site. Good planning in the site planning exercises leads to cost-effective design. Sustainable and user-friendly design approach provides long-term adaptability and growth within the site. So these are informations that are very much relevant to a site planning study, and these you try to follow this information and just go through the content of this presentation, where you will start with the site planning exercises, so that the work that you have done in the site plan represents the previous learnings that you have completed from different sources. So these are few activities that you can do at the end of this presentation. For example, you can identify some real life examples of natural features that have influenced site planning by either enhancing or limiting the options. That is, when you do the case study and then you try to see how the natural features were integrated into the site planning exercises. So these informations are very essential, and then after the site visit that you come do for a particular project, so you try to jot down what are the critical pieces of information that can lead you towards the site planning exercises. So these informations can help you in the coming up with better site plan for your project. Then these are some resources that you can refer for your understanding on the site planning for the projects. So in our next presentation we will try to understand how to develop the site plan in detail. So an introduction and definition to site plan will be provided. What are the key components of site plan, drawing convention and scales that has to be followed in site plans, integrating design concept through into the site plan, some case examples will be discussed, and then some site plans, like the techniques for evaluating and improving the site plans also will be discussed. So these are the content in our for the next presentation, that will be covered on site planning. So with this I would like to conclude this presentation, and I hope the information about the site planning process was very effective or useful for you in when you will start the process of site planning in your architectural design or thesis or projects. So I would like to thank you for your patience listening, and hope to meet you in the next presentation. Thank you.